Alright, so today Snapmaker announced their new 3-in-1 3D printer. They're calling it the Artisan. There isn't a ton of information, just like an announcement website and then some quick specs, but they are pretty interesting. So right off the bat, Snapmaker has completely redesigned the look of the Snapmaker. It's got a lot more like rounded corners and stuff like that, and it looks to be a little bit bigger, a little bit more minimalistic. If you've seen the look of the 10-watt laser, it's basically that, but for the entire machine and stuff like that. I think it looks pretty slick. I think it looks pretty cool. Hopefully it's gonna work well and stuff like that, because cosmetics aren't everything, but we'll see. So starting with the linear modules, last year they announced the new T-Series, which was basically just the initial linear modules, but upgraded for the X and Y axes. They actually increased the lead from 8mm to 20mm, and now they're actually going to upgrade it again to 40mm. They're also taking the internal guide rails, they're making those out of steel, and they're going to add some ball bearings in there, and the carriage that's on the inside looks to be a little bit bigger, and hopefully a little bit stronger and stuff like that, so it'll be able to drive faster, hopefully be stronger, and hopefully it's a little bit more sealed. I think some people have had some problems with like dust and like stuff getting into them, so hopefully they're a bit more tight, a little bit more sealed and stuff like that, but they look to be about the same depth of it. If you're looking at the linear module, it looks to be about the same depth, but they do look to be a little bit wider, so I think this machine is going to be bigger than the A350, but I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully if it's bigger, it's going to be stronger and stuff like that, a bit more rigid. Hopefully, we can hope. But I think these new linear modules will be able to do that for us. Alright, so next up we have the work area. It's being expanded to a 350 by 400 by 400 work area, up from the A350's work area of 320 by 350 by 330. Now, some people had a problem with the bed size being so big. It kind of led to some uneven beds and things weren't always level, and the modules weren't really super strong, so they kind of had a little bit of like shaking them, a little bit of wiggle and stuff like that. So I'm hoping that with these new linear modules, we'll be able to kind of correct that and solve that. And so hopefully with the bigger work area and the stronger linear modules, we'll be able to kind of counteract each other and hopefully be better than what's on the A350 already, and we'll have less problems with things going weird. Now under the work area, it looks like we have a new bed mount for our different utility plates and everything. It looks to be a little bit more rigid and stuff, so hopefully that'll be another increase that we'll get to make everything better. And then the base plate looks to be a little bit stronger, it looks to be a little bit more dense. It's got some like nice thick handles on the front. The other one, the old one for the Snapmaker 2.0 was like kind of thin. It had some ribs in it and stuff like that. But hopefully this one's a little bit more thicker and is more of like a plate than just like some like ribbed like casting and stuff like that. I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully all these things will go through and they get stronger, but we can only wait until it's released and people have it in their house. Alright, next up, this one's pretty cool. For the Snapmaker 2.0, people have gone out and they've actually designed some hot swappable, like quick swap mechanisms for all the linear modules. Snapmaker now building it into the Artisan. They have a little thing with a latch in the front. You can go through and you can latch it on and stuff like that, take it on and off. They call it the 60-second quick swap. And yes, I will say, having to go through in the back and undo all 4 of the screws and stuff like that, especially whenever you have like all the filaments and you've got the linear module and the tool module, you're kind of back there looking blind, especially if you have an enclosure. You can't like get to like your head's all the way in there, so that is kind of hard. So hopefully that will be really nice to have a nice solid thing to be able to just hot swap them and be on your way. So I'm looking forward to that. Now I'm not sure if it got mentioned in the announcement for the T-Series linear modules and the new F-Series 3D printer that they had back in the fall, but they finally are confirming that they're making the dual extruder, and there's actually like photos of it on the machine, which is really cool. And they also say that it can now go up to 300 degrees Celsius, which is pretty nice. I think you probably kind of need that to be able to do 2 of the 3D printing modules at the same time. But it's really awesome to see that it's finally there. If you don't know what's cool about like a dual extruder, you can now print like 2 colors at the same time without having to like go through and manually feed it. And if you wanted to, you can now 3D print with like PLA or something like that, which doesn't dissolve, but you can use a dissolvable filament to go through and print your supports. So instead of trying to like think you're gonna break all your model by taking off your supports, you kind of just like dunk it in like some water or something like that, and it just kind of melts away and stuff like that, which is really cool. I'm looking forward to that. Now hopefully people are hoping that it comes to the Snapmaker 2.0 as well as the Artisan. I hope so too, just for the sake of the community. I think it'd be really, really bad on Snapmaker's part if they only put it out for the Artisan and they kind of really limit their community to being like one machine or the other. I think they should really put it out for the 2.0 as well. We can only wait and see, but again, I think the community would really like it because they've teased this before even announcing the Artisan. So I think it's only fair to the community to put it out for both. Okay, they mentioned the 10-watt laser module. That's already been out for a little bit, so we're not really going to get into that too much. But next up is the CNC module. It's now getting a new top spindle speed of 18,000 RPM and is now 200 watts. I don't know what the wattage was before for the old Snapmaker 2.0 module, the CNC module, but they say it's a 300% increase in power, which hopefully means it's going to be stronger and faster, and hopefully with the new linear modules, the whole base will be stronger. So maybe we'll finally be able to get some tests on some aluminum or something like that. So they're testing it on beech, which is a hardwood, and if it's good for the hardwoods, hopefully it's good for kind of any woods, which is nice. I think the CNC module has definitely needed an upgrade, and hopefully this will be the one that kind of makes it really good. Alright, and the final thing to take a look at is the new power module. It looks to be a lot bigger and a lot different. So instead of being just a rectangle that sits pretty horizontally and flat, it's now this like octagonal shape that goes probably about the same depth, and it now has a screen on the front instead of like touchscreen sitting on the actual machine. So it looks kind of weird. It looks pretty solid and like pretty walled off. So if this is the power module, hopefully the back is just full of vents, that way it can get good airflow and keep everything cool while keeping the quietness of the new T-series power supply. But yeah, they have a new screen on the front. It's a little bit recessed from the pictures, so it's kind of put inward. Hopefully it won't mess up the viewing angle of anything. I kind of wish there wasn't like a wall around it and that screen was kind of like the main front and stuff like that. That way if you're like kind of off at an angle, you can still see it. I don't know, we'll see, and we'll wait until they kind of have a demo of it. But yeah, there's a slot on the front on the top. I don't know what that is. Maybe you can like put something in there, or it's like an inlet valve for air or something. And then the final thing on here, it looks like there's an e-stop button built into the power supply. My only complaint with this is that it looks like it's recessed into the power supply, and if it's an e-stop button, I think it should be kind of outside of the power supply, so that way if you have an emergency, you can just slap it really quick and stuff like that and shut down your machine. But Snapmaker kind of likes to kind of conceal their e-stop buttons, it looks like. The one for the 2.0 kind of has some walls around it, and this one's stuck in the power supply, it looks like. So I don't know, Snapmaker, if it's an emergency stop button, I think it should be kind of out and more easily available to hit in an emergency. Like, oh bam, you know, you gotta be quick. But I don't know, we'll see what it is. We'll see whenever they demo it in release time. Speaking of release, it's gonna be released in October. That's even further away. It's gonna be released in August of 2022, so we only have like a month to wait. And if you're curious about stuff throughout the month of August, they're gonna be releasing some articles about some more in-depth things about the Artisan. They already have one out about the linear modules, so if you're interested in reading some more in-depth things about that, I read it. There's not a ton to it, but they do talk a little bit more about the strength of the modules and some other stuff. It also looks like we're getting a new enclosure. It looks different than the other one, so if you are looking at the Artisan, I think you're going to have to get a new enclosure for that as well. Well, that's about it though. That's all I saw in the article that they announced the Artisan in. If you are interested in it, you can check it out. I'll leave a link down below for you to get all the details for yourself. You can go read on it. But I'm gonna guess that the price of this is gonna be above $2,000. I think the Snapmaker 2.0 is already reaching like $1,800. So I'm gonna guess this is gonna be higher than $2,000. My guess is gonna be $2,399. I think it's a little bit lower than $2,500. That way it makes people feel like it's a little bit cheaper, but still kind of expensive. So I'm gonna guess $2,399 US dollars. And yeah, I think with all the upgrades and with all the kind of redesign, I think it kind of has to be pretty expensive. Now, I think it will be really interesting to see if Snapmaker has been listening to the community and whether or not they've actually made it stronger and they've fixed some of the issues and stuff like that. So I really hope they have been, but I guess we'll see whenever this is released. But yeah, that's all the information I can share right now. That's all I have learned about the machine. But if you want to learn more about it, subscribe, so that way if we make another video in August showcasing it whenever it releases, you can watch that and you can keep up to date. If you would like to share this with someone else in the community, that way they can know about the Artisan in case they haven't already heard about it, be sure to do that. And yeah, that's about it. If you have any thoughts, leave them down in the comments section. I would love to chat with you and get to know what you think about it. Do you think it's going to be good? Are you going to be able to upgrade to it? Do you think there's going to be any major problems that arise because of it. I don't know. I'd love to chat with you guys in the comments, so leave one down below. But that about wraps things up for me, so I will see you next time. Take care.